Hi, welcome to the Guitar Department. I'm your host, Joe Alton, and today on this show, we're going to learn a new song. We're going to learn a little bit about a music theory device called the circle of fifths and why it exists and how to use it, and we're going to have a special guest lick of the week again this week. And last but not least, we've got our pedal of the week, and it's a good one this week. So stay tuned right here on the Guitar Department. Today we're going to learn the song My Girl by The Temptations. It's got a pretty classic guitar riff in it, actually. It's instantly recognizable, and it's one of the most simple riffs out there in the pop music realm. So here's what it sounds like. So the first thing you do is you start with your third finger on the third fret of the fifth string. And you're going to pluck that string once, and then just give it a cold stop. Now, I actually put in a little string scrape in that place to simulate what the Temptations are doing with a snap. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's not a part of the guitar part. But if you want the effect, that's a great way to get it. And then you move down a string to the fourth string. You're going to play a 0 and then a 2. Notice that I'm using my second finger. That'll be important here in a little bit. So we're going to go 3, stop, 0, 2. Then you go down another string. 0, 2 on the third string. The notes, by the way, are C, D, E, G, A. And then our last note will be C, the octave of the C on the first string. Now, some of you might recognize that this is actually just a major pentatonic scale. And it is. It's literally just the notes of a major pentatonic scale used for the riff in the song. And it doesn't stop there. We have that whole riff, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then we jump all the way to the top string. And that's going to be your chord change. We're changing the chord from C to F. We'll talk about the chords here in a second. But you're going to start on this F, top string, first fret. Then you're going to jump to the third fret. And actually, that's where that cold stop is again. We have the same rhythm on the second set on the F chord that we did on the C chord. So you're going to go F and stop, and then you go to G, the third fret on the top string, the sixth string. Then down a string to the A string, fifth string. You'll go open A to C, 0 to 3 as far as the notes, the tap goes. And then down another string, you'll go 0, 3 again. And in this case, it's a D to an F. So we've got that same major pentatonic scale, except this time it's an F major pentatonic. So we have a C major pentatonic scale used in a specific rhythm. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then to the F. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. And that's the main riff to My Girl by The Temptations. Now it starts off with that C chord twice in a row before it starts to alternate between the two. You play that 1. And then right when the verse starts, you start in with the riff that we just learned, including the F chord. Now, underneath that, we have the same two chords played in a different way. Now, if you were playing the song for somebody by yourself on an acoustic guitar, just like this excellent Breedlove Black Widow that I have right now, you would just strum an open C chord, and then to F, and you would sing the lyrics to the song in such a way. In the recording, however, if you were in a band playing this song, the way they were when they recorded the song, what you would actually do is play the C chord up here. And then the F chord will just be these three strings. We're going to do like a cheater F, so to speak. And you're just going to play the 10th fret on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. And that continues, I believe, 4 times before it changes into the chorus part. Now the chorus part doesn't have a lead guitar part the way the verse does. That main riff continues all the way through all 4 changes in the verse, and then it drops out when you get to the chorus. So for the chorus, we're going to learn these chords first as open chords. It'll be C for 2 beats. Then you're going to go to an open D minor chord. Drop it down to a full bar chord F, and then to a G chord. That whole thing repeats, 2 beats each. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you land on a C chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then to F. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we hit a G, but this is the only chord that has a different rhythm. They hit that big "my girl" right there. So you're going to stop the chord cold and then go back to your main riff. Just like that. Now, if you were in a band playing it, you might choose another way to play those chords, and the way I believe they do it in the recording is the same bar chord C, down here to the 5th fret bar chord D minor. Then we're going to jump up to this cheater F that we did, these 3 notes. It's not really cheating, by the way. All the same notes are in there. We still have the same F, A, and C that make up the F chord. And then up 2 more frets, 12th fret, same strings, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. And that gives you a G chord, a G, B, and a D. Actually, technically a D, a G, and then a B, but it's still the same notes. Just like that. And that's how you play My Girl by The Temptations, just in time for Valentine's Day. Now I want you to notice that when I'm playing this G chord, I'm using an open voicing. It's a really common voicing, but it's not the only one. And if you find something else that tells you that a G chord is played differently, it's probably also correct. And here's the most common variation. What I have here is a G, a B, a D, and then the open string G, and then my 3rd finger is on another D. And then I've got my pinky on the bottom string on a G. Now the top and the bottom strings are both E strings, so whatever happens on the top string also happens on the bottom string usually. The B right here only happens once in this chord. So one thing that you can do if you choose to, and it might be a little bit easier to finger, you take your pinky off of the bottom string and then move the ring finger down 1 string to the bottom string. So now, instead of having this D on the ring finger and a G on the bottom string, this open 4th, we have an open 6th, actually, a B and a G. The exact same chord. There are certain situations where you may have to play the D or situations where you may have to play a B. But for the most part, these 2 chords are interchangeable, so you can go with whichever one you like the most. And another song that uses the G chord that I was using with the 2 fingers at the bottom and that D in place, there's actually quite a few. You could do Every Rose Has Its Thorn. There's also Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day. And one of the reasons this voicing is so popular amongst songwriters, singer-songwriters specifically, is that you can play multiple chords with that 3rd finger in place. So let me run for you through just a few of them. We've got a G, Then if I lower my first and second fingers, that gives me what they call a C add 9. Now, the reason it's called a C add 9, I'll briefly explain, is that it has the 3 notes from a C chord, the C, the E, and the G. And then if you were to play the scale from the root, the C right here, it is the 9th note of the C major scale. Now, they call it the 9th. It's actually the octave of the 2nd note. So you could call it, you might see it called a C2. There's a lot of different versions of the way that chord is written. I generally know it as a C add 9, and technically speaking, the interval between this note and this note is called a 9th. So C add 9. It's literally a C chord plus the 9th note of the major scale, the 9th interval from the root. And you can see on that song you need that D in place. And also, the 3rd finger stays in place when you go to the D chord. So you can play that whole progression without moving your 3rd finger. Another example that comes to mind is Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind. And then if you wanted to, you could add, keeping these 2 fingers in place, you can add an E minor chord. It becomes an E minor 7, but it gives you a slightly different sound from the classic E minor. The same 2 fingers, 1st and 2nd, go on the 5th and 4th strings on the 2nd fret. But you can leave the 3rd and 4th fingers in place from the G chord. What it does is it adds a 2nd octave of the 3rd, the G. That note's already in the chord. And then it adds a D, which turns it into an E minor 7. And then there's one more chord, there's actually a few that you could add, but one more chord that's used quite a bit is what becomes an A7 sus4. And it's basically just like an E minor, except you move these 2 fingers down a string. And it has a really sort of dissonant tonality. Those suspended chords add quite a bit to it. This is also a trick that Taylor Swift used all the time for her first several albums, playing just G, E minor, C, And of course, if you're looking for a great love song to play with those chords, don't forget about Oasis's Wonderwall, which technically has a capo on the 2nd fret, but with the lack of a capo, it goes. That's the main riff to the song anyway. So this G chord with these 2 fingers on the bottom 2 strings, very useful and something that you should just experiment with. Changing these notes up, you can move them down even another string. Gets you sort of an F sound, a dissonant sounding F chord, the C chord, the G chord, the E minor chord, the A sus chord, and of course, the regular open D chord, which, if you keep the pinky in place, turns into what they call a D sus4. Next up, we're going to talk about a musical device that is used quite a bit in music theory called the circle of fifths. And the circle of fifths is a way of representing the 12 notes that occur in Western music in a certain order. The 12 notes that occur in Western music are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, the natural notes, and then we have 5 chromatic notes or enharmonic notes. We've got F sharp and G flat, which are the same note, G sharp and A flat, A sharp and B flat. Then we're going to skip over the C's and the B's and go straight up to C sharp and D flat. And then we have one more D sharp, and E flat. Now, all of those chromatic tones have two names, as I just mentioned. We are going to refer to them, for the purposes of the circle of fifths, as the flat name. So we won't be calling this an A sharp, we'll be calling it a B flat. And the way the circle of fifths works, depending on where you start anyway, it runs from a certain note, in this case we're going to start on F. It'll run from F through the fourth intervals. So starting on F, you play F, G, A, B flat, and C, and that gives you the fifth of the F scale. Now, in the circle of fifths, you have F, and then if you move 1 degree clockwise, the next note is C. If you start on C and play 5 notes through the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that was C, D, E, F, G, you'll notice that G is the fifth note of the C major scale. So in the circle of fifths, if you move 1 more tick to the right, it gives you a G. And it follows that pattern all the way through. So in G, we have our fifth is D. In D, our fifth is A. In A, our fifth is E. And that continues on. The next one would be B, excuse me. And when we get to B, the natural notes sort of end. That's all 7 of them. We've got F, C, G, D, A, E, and B. So at that point, we start going through the flats. But to go through the flats, I'm actually going to go the other direction. We're going to start on F, and we're going to go a fourth up from F, which brings us a B flat. Now, the reason I'm going a fourth is that it is the inversion of the fifth interval, and here's what that means. If I started on B flat and played 5 notes up, that gives me an F. So a B flat to F is what we call an open fifth. But if I started on F, I have to go 4 notes before I hit a B flat again. So an F to a B flat is a fourth. So this represents the intervals, and we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. And that's our general circle of fifths. We've got B, E, A, D, G, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and the next note in that sequence would be F flat again, C flat again, which would give us B. So that would take us back into the beginning of our circle. The reason that we have the chords in this order, though, is actually really useful once you dive into music theory. It explains everything from the order of the sharps and the order of the flats. If you start on F, that is your first sharp in any given key other than C or the flat keys. If you're in the key of G, you have 1 sharp and it's F sharp. If you're in the key of D, you have 2 sharps and it's F sharp and C sharp, F, C. If you go to the key of A, you have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, which again is F, C, G. It's right through the order of the fifths going clockwise. And then if we go counterclockwise, we get the order of the flats. C, the key of C, has no sharps or flats, so that's our launching point. And if you move 1 degree to the left, counterclockwise, you get the key of F. Now, the key of F has 1 flat, and that's a B flat. And again, I said we were going backwards through the line here. So B is the first flat. The key of B flat has 2 flats. It's B flat and E flat, and then so on. The next one, the key of E flat, has a B flat, an E flat, and an A flat. And it just follows the inversion of the circle of fifths. The B, E, A, D, G, C, F is the order of the flats. And if you go the other way, F, C, G, A, E, B, D, A, E, B, excuse me, that is the order of the sharps. And then it also helps describe chord movement, especially if you get into classical or jazz theory. This is where it becomes really useful. Within any given key, the notes B, E, A, D, G, C, F all happen in the key of C. So you can take C as your center for the pattern and just label out all of the rest of the chords. The F would be the fourth, the G would be the fifth, the D would be the second, and so on through the rest of the chords. The A is the sixth, and so on. And each of those chords in diatonic harmony has its own chord harmony that it's based on. So in the key of C, A is a minor chord, G is a major chord, and then F is also a major chord. So I just picked those chords sort of at random. And you can follow that through the circle of fifths. You can also start at any given launching point for certain progressions and just work your way back to your home base, your key. So if I started on A is minor, D is the next note through the fifths, and that is minor also. The G is our fifth of the key that we're in, which is major, or in this case dominant is the way I'm playing it. And then we have our C, which is also major, or in this case major 7. And what's cool about it is that you can move that parallel to any given key that you want. So if you started on B flat, all of the same chord tones move parallel. If you move to the right 3 chord tones, you get the sixth of your scale, which is a minor chord, and then 3 or 2 to the right would give you the second, which is C, and so on. So it'd be C minor, G minor, C minor, F, and then B flat. And you can follow this all throughout all of the keys to help you learn diatonic harmony and to learn how to use the key signatures themselves and how to recognize them when they come up. And that's sort of why we use the circle of fifths. And now it's time for our lick of the week, and we've got a special guest this week. Jason Baima is from the Illinois area and went to Music Tech of Minneapolis along with our producer, Mr. Bryce Jarrett, where he was awarded the Best Guitarist Award. And currently he lives in the LA area where he's been a part of many major recording sessions and currently gigs around that area.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason. I have a lick of the week for you. Out of our old friend minor pentatonic scale, E form minor pentatonic that a lot of us learned pretty early on. The lick scale degrees in the lick are flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, and root. The picking order is flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, flat 5, 4, flat 3, 4, flat 5, root, flat 5, 4, flat 3, root. So slowly the whole lick would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. Now I'm alternate picking all the notes so you can hear the lick, but when you get it up to speed, you'll be using hammers and pull-offs to execute this lick unless you're playing it at a slower tempo. So quickly at 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I just practiced this through this, so the circle of fourths or fifths is a handy way to do it. So just to get it under your fingers and learn it in different positions on the neck. So for instance, if starting in C to F, B flat, E flat, etc. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.
Now it's time for us to enter the tone zone with our pedal of the week. And this week we have the Fender Bubbler Chorus. Now Fender has been putting out this line of new pedals the past couple of years, and they are just amazing. This Bubbler Chorus has so many different features on it. I don't even know if we'll have time to get to all of them. Starting with, we have lit up LED dials. So if I flip a switch on the back here, I can turn those off. But if you're in a darkened club and you have one of these on your pedal board and you need to see the dials, they actually have a little switch that you can turn on and that tells you where the dial is set. It has a little light in it that tells you. We have 2 different kinds of chorus, but first we should talk about what a chorus actually is. So my dry signal sounds like this. And when I flip this on, what it's going to do is going to act a bit like a vibrato. It's going to modulate the signal up and down. It's actually going to change the pitch of the notes from my guitar. But what a chorus does is it then blends those alternations in pitch, that modulation, with the dry signal, the unaltered signal, and that lets you get all of these harmonics, these overtones, to come out. And it adds a really cool wavy effect. You hear that wow, 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 that sound in there. Now, that's not where this one ends, though. That's sort of what a standard chorus does. Now, this one has a switch in the middle where it has a triangle and what's called a sine wave. And if I switch that from triangle to sine wave, what it does is it gives you a different kind of chorus. And the technical explanation, as I understand it, is that it blends the overtones in a little bit better and makes it so that the transition of the modulation is a little less harsh. What that means for the average player is that you get a little bit more of a, what they call a wet sound, and a little bit less of a strict jump from one modulation to the other. So here it is with the sine wave, and then here it is with the triangle effect. Both of them have their place. I wouldn't say there's a better one or a worse one. However, if you flip it to sine wave, we're going to roll the depth up a little bit so that it's going up and down a little bit more than it was a second ago. And it gives us what they call a Leslie effect, where it's sort of a rotary speaker effect. It's actually a different effect from chorus, but it's a nice little imitation of it. And I'll give you an example. This is the song Black Hole Sun, which uses a Leslie effect, a real Leslie effect, run through the bubbler chorus. So you can hear that wow, 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 that sound that's in there. And it's used all the time. That's a pretty soft example, but it's also used in metal all the time for some of the cleaner signals. And you can't really talk about chorus without talking about how it fit into the 80s, especially in their drier signals. They turn the depth down and the rate down a little bit. That's a very sort of stereotypical clean sound from the 80s rock genre. But then we've also got a slow-fast switch. We have two sets of controls for rate and depth. And if I switch it from rate 1 to rate 2, now you can set them to however you want. It says slow and fast, but you can set both of them slow or both of them fast just to be different. But you can hear how fast that is going. That's increased quite a bit. And here's my favorite part about this slow-fast setting, is if I switch it from slow to fast, it doesn't just cut from slow to fast, it actually fades. So you hear the signal go from extremely fast modulation, and it just sort of winds itself down to what your other setting is. I don't know if you can hear that, but that is an amazing effect. And there it is speeding back up. I'll do it on a single note here. And you can hear it just sort of fade from fast to slow and from slow to fast. Now, the other two knobs that we have here are a level knob that sort of blends the chorus signal with your original dry signal. So if I turn this down all the way, it actually basically turns the pedal off. There's no real chorusy effect there at all. And I'll go ahead and play a chord and turn it up so you can hear it. And that's all the way on. That's turned all the way up there. So that's your full-on chorus effect. This is an amazing pedal, and it just does so many different things that I never even considered that a chorus could do. the Fender Bubbler Chorus, ladies and gentlemen, our pedal of the week. Well, thank you for tuning into the Guitar Department. I'm your host, Joe Alton. I want to thank Riemen Music for giving us a place to shoot our show during these times, and for supplying this beautiful Players Series Stratocaster and the Black Widow Breedlove that I had earlier, and for supplying our Fender Bubbler Chorus, our pedal of the week. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Guitar Department. Thank you to our producer, Bryce Jarrett, and our cameraman, Jason. And please join us next time right here on the Guitar Department. I'm going to mess around with this pedal a little more.